And we're back with Prove It with Jen and Jake, but today you are just getting Jen again. We are on episode 3, which is super exciting. I had a goal set at the beginning of the year that I was going to get 4 podcast videos recorded before the end of January. So I've got a few more recordings to get in. No, one more recording to get in, but I am on the trajectory of hitting that goal. So I am super excited. Jake is out of town traveling for work, and so figured might as well get this next episode out. This episode is mostly just me kind of sharing my thoughts. Again, we talked about, I think, in the first podcast that we really don't know what we're doing. I don't know what I'm doing. But I want to get on here and share, different insights and hopefully at some point get people on where I can interview them on things that I find interested. And this morning, I had some thoughts come to me. Excuse me. I had some thoughts come to me as I was dropping my kids off at school. And so I wanted to share them. This will probably be a quick episode, but here we go. Into the mind of Jen Phillips. So I was just thinking about how we all face different challenges and struggles throughout life. And I think what makes each of our stories so powerful is when we are able to relay what we went through and offer up advice on how we made it through, or offer up support to others who might be going through the same thing. And so I have been thinking a lot about my journey in life and the different things that I've encountered. And so I wanted to dive a little bit into that, because my hope is that by sharing the different challenges and struggles that I have faced in life, that it might, that it resonates with people, and also sharing how I've come through those struggles, or how I'm currently coming through those struggles or issues or challenges, that it might offer hope or just compassion, or even, that it might help someone, even if it's just one person, that it might help someone who finds themselves in similar challenges, that they also can come through that, and that they're not alone, right? Because I think sometimes that's the hardest part of going through life, is that, especially when you're in the trenches, you are in the challenges, that it can feel really isolating, and you can feel really alone in it. And I think a lot of times, at least I know for me, when I'm struggling, it's hard for me to reach out and ask for help. It's hard for me to let people in. It's hard for me to, I guess, be vulnerable in that sense, and to allow people to know that I have weaknesses, or that I'm not in a good place, and that, and that I don't have it all together. So I wanted to go a little bit into my background and just talk about some of these limiting beliefs that I held about myself for a really long time, and that I'm still currently working on letting go of. I feel like I've come a long way, but those beliefs at times creep back up. And I think that's part of life, is that even when you've healed from certain traumas, or even when you've come through hard things, and you have gained learnings around those things, there are moments in life where those things surface again or something triggers that. And in those moments, it offers us a chance to react differently. And when we have found healing around those things, it allows us to react from a place of healing rather than hurt and pain. And so hopefully we deal with whatever we're encountering with a more uh, enlightened or healing perspective. So anyway, I would say one of my really big limiting beliefs around myself was that I was not good enough in any way, shape, or form. And um, it wasn't just not good enough. I'm not enough. Not pretty enough, not smart enough, not tall enough, not short enough, not blonde enough, not brown enough, not uh, fun enough, not sexy enough, not assertive enough, not nice enough, not funny enough. Like it was everything and anything. And I feel like the thoughts of not being enough, it would take turns in certain areas of my life, right? Not successful enough, not motherly enough, not nurturing enough, not wifey enough, not, and it was, I think for whatever reason, because I had developed this belief about myself early on in childhood, I would find ways to contribute to that belief as I got older. And so, as you can imagine, my romantic relationships were not great. And that is not to place blame on any one party. It's a two-way street, right? When I have these beliefs about myself, then it attracts in, I think, people that I can find ways to get myself in a position where I feel not enough, right? And so it's both the relationship itself, and then how I'm reacting, and then that person's reacting in those relationships. So my at the deeper root cause of not being enough was the belief that I was unlovable. And so that was like the core finding in the different therapies that I went through, was that I was unlovable. And that came about a little over a year ago. And in discovering that, I mean, that was pretty much a slap in the face for me. I didn't realize that it was on that deep of a level, right? Like, I knew I had some things I needed to heal from. I knew that there were probably some wounds that weren't properly looked into or properly addressed, and but I didn't realize that it was at this much deeper much deeper level of feeling that I was unlovable. And part of, when you feel like you are unlovable, that also stems from not being able to love yourself, right? So there's been a lot of work around that, especially over this last year. It's been pretty intense. I think, there were definitely different modalities and things that I was doing to help heal myself and work through certain things. But I wasn't getting to the root cause of healing those traumas. And so one program that I have to give a shout out to was Genius Unlocked. So I went through this program. It's NLP, neuro linguistic programming, and it was through a company called Genius Unlocked, and that was mind blowing for me. That really helped me get into the nitty gritty of how my mind works, why I was holding on to certain beliefs, how to overcome those and work with them, right? So it wasn't just like a mental release, but it was a somatic release as well. So at some point, I actually would love to have on one of well, I have a couple different contacts that I know who are certified through NLP. And so I would like to have one of them come on and possibly just talk about what it is, or even do like a quick root cause coaching session, which I think would be really cool for people to see how they are mapping your brain as you go through, as you tap into like these problem areas, quote unquote. So, okay, so getting back into just kind of our stories, the different things that we go to. I think something that probably many of you can relate to is going through a divorce. So I would say over these last couple weeks, I have just really been struggling to hold it together. I kind of feel like I am at like I'm on my last straw and I am just going to break at any second. So I went through a separation close to, I would say like 5 years ago. And then my divorce was finalized in, I think it was 2022 or 2021. Anyway, I was living in London at the time with my then husband. We separated. We were separated for about a year. During COVID, it was just absolute chaos over there. We lived in a flat, which is kind of like it's an apartment complex. So during COVID, the rules were you could go outside for 1 hour a day. We were in, we were in central London. So we didn't have a backyard. The areas that we were allowed to go outside to, as far as like, being active and getting out, was just the parks, the nearby parks. But police were patrolling parks. Police were patrolling streets. They had checkpoints. So you weren't allowed to leave the city if you lived in the city. It was not a great time. And maybe I'll go more into that story another time. But it was so mentally and physically draining. Everyone was at home, right? If you could work from home, you were working from home. All the kids were now at home. No one was in school. And then my husband at the time, we were separated, living in different places, but now we were joining and working together in my flat. So, he would come over during the days. We're trying to handle the kids and their schooling. We're literally locked inside for 23 hours a day. So everyone is just, when you're not active and you are constantly inside, it's depressing. You're losing your ability to be like your physical, my kids, yeah. They were super active. Like they were all part of competitive sports teams, and being locked inside, it takes a toll on your body mentally and physically, and especially when it's months at a time. Anyways, yeah, that is another story that I need to dive into, because wow, yeah, it gives me anxiety just thinking about everything that went down during that lockdown period. But we got to a point where I was like, hey, we got to get out of here. Like everyone is falling apart. We have family back in the States. let's go to Utah. I have like my sister, my brother, my mom and dad live there. They've all got backyards. So at least we can go outside, and just like hang out in the backyard, if anything. And they have cars. So at least we can like go for a drive if we just need to like get out. And so we packed up our stuff, and my ex at the time said, "Hey, I'll meet you there. I've got stuff that I need to finish here." He had started a company in London, and so they were kind of getting up and going. And so I said, "Yeah, that's fine." So we left, and he never made it out. So there was just a lot going on at the time, but he never made it out. We were there for several months. London was still kind of like all over the place. Didn't know if they were going to open back up. Didn't know if they were going to let kids back in school. Then they were going to, but then they were going to send them home. I mean, it was just a shit show. And I was like, no. After experiencing those lockdowns, I am not going back until we know for certain that like everything's been lifted. We can go back to normal life. Kids can go back to school. I can go back to work. You no longer have to be in my flat with me while I'm working, because my divorce and how things ended, we were not in a place where I wanted to be spending a lot of time with him. And so to be forced to have to figure that out before I had properly had a chance to mourn my divorce and heal from the things that went on, was really fucking hard. So we came back, and after several months of not knowing what London was going to do with their lockdowns and how they were going to proceed, and if they were going to force people to get vaccinations, which I was not about to get, and I was not about to make my kids get. My kids said, "We don't want to go back. We want to stay here." So we had an uncomfortable conversation with my husband at the time, that we had been, separated for a year. And I'll get into why we were just separated. But we had that conversation, and he was like, "My company's here. I can't leave. And so if you guys stay in Utah, we'll have to figure out how that works." So for the last 4 years, I've been in Utah. I have my kids the majority of the time, and it's really hard. We came to Utah with one suitcase each. And I had been a stay-at-home mom the majority of my marriage. And I really just, I was terrified. I didn't know how I was going to provide for myself and my kids. And while, yes, my ex-husband does help with alimony and child support, it was he had also left his job to start his own company, and in doing that took a huge pay cut. And so it was it's going from living a certain way and depending on certain things to, okay, I've got to go out and I've got to figure out, how I'm going to support myself and how I'm also going to help to support my kids. And it has been challenging. We lived with my sister for the first several months. Then we moved into a townhome. Everything in that townhome, well, not everything, 90% of stuff in that townhome had been donated to us by friends and family who knew kind of the situation. So I had left everything in London. my car was given to me by my parents. They had a car that was paid off that was a little bit older that they gave to me to use. And my like aunts, uncles, my sister, especially her and her family, were a godsend. They let us use their beds. Our blankets were donated. We had towels. I mean, utensils, plates, TVs, like literally every time I walked in that town home, I couldn't help but feel so overwhelmed with gratitude, because I'd never been I'd never been in that position where I needed so much help. And uh and I didn't I didn't know how to ask for it, but people just showed up and helped and donated anyway. And that townhome was just a constant reminder of the goodness that exists out there. And I was I feel so grateful for that. I know not everyone has those types of resources or access to family for help or access to friends for help. And and so I realize that I am very lucky in that sense and feel completely grateful. Um, we only know what we know, right? We can things are relative to us. We can look at people's situations and see that, oh my God, they're in a much worse spot than me. But I've only experienced what I've experienced. And so I'm sharing from that. Um, we lived in that townhome for about a year. I was not making enough to pay for it. I was dipping into my savings. And so we moved out after a year and I moved in with my parents. And I wanted my kids to be able to have a place where they could feel like it was their home and that they could be there and it would be stable. And they would know that, we don't have to leave in a few months or ever if we don't want to. And so I was really determined to get in a position where I could buy my own place. And so that next year, I worked really hard to save everything I was making and to try to invest and get in a better financial position and understand how to have my money make money. And over that year, March came around of 2024, and I bought a small little condo. And we moved into that. And I am, again, just so grateful. I look back on when I first got here, and we had one suitcase each, and we were living in my sister's house. Thank God for her and her family who took us in, let my kids share rooms with her kids, helped us with food, helped us with transportation, like getting people around. I look at that, and I was working part-time for a company in London. A lot of my clients were I had clients in the Middle East and clients in other parts of Europe. And so I was getting up, around 3, 4 in the morning and trying to work there so I could have some sort of income and also figure out what am I going to do now that I'm moving to the States. And I remember I taped this poster up on my ceiling, and I just wrote on there, never give up. And every morning I'd wake up and I would see that. And sometimes I'd wake up and I'd just cry. It's funny how thinking back about it, like, brings those emotions to the surface. But I was so overwhelmed and I just did not know how I was going to do this. How was I supposed to have my kids full time and work full time and find a place for us to live that's, where we're not overtaking my sister's house. And um it felt overwhelming sometimes to the point where I'd feel paralyzed, feeling like I can't even make a decision, or I can't even get up and do the things that I need to do because I'm so paralyzed with the stress and with the fear of, like, not knowing what to do. Um, and for me, like, that sign was a reminder to never give up, that I've got this, that really it's just baby steps. It's one foot in front of the other every single day, choosing to get up, every single day, choosing to get ready, to get dressed, to every single day, choosing to get my kids to where they need to go. And that's how it's been over these last 4 years, is every day it's making little decisions that help push me forward and help propel me forward. And when I look at where I am now, which I'm still in the thick of it, right? I'm still trying to figure out, like, okay, I've now got a condo that, or a little condo unit thing that me and my kids can be in. And I found one of my closest friends had invited me to come work with her in escrow for a title insurance company. And in doing that, like, I'm slowly growing my business there, but that takes time, right? It takes time to build those connections. It takes time to learn the industry. It takes time to build that confidence in yourself. And especially when you are coming from a situation where, one, you have these limiting beliefs about yourself that you're not good enough, right? Then those things trickle over into, oh my God, I'm not going to be, like, what if I don't explain this correctly? Or what if I make a mistake? Or, these imposter thoughts come in. And the other thoughts of, I haven't had a career since before I had kids, which was 20 years ago. Well, 17 years ago, almost 20 years ago. I've not really had to rely on myself. I stepped away from the work industry or career industry for so long that I feel like a 16-year-old going back into the entry-level position. But I'm 40 and all these other 40-year-olds surrounding me are so successful and so knowledgeable and so set and so confident, and it's intimidating, right? It's like, oh God, I'm 42. I should be here, but I'm here, and I'm trying, I'm pushing forward. But I'm juggling so many things that I feel like I can't really be successful in any one area because I've got to be full-time mom over here, but I've also got to build my career over here. And how am I doing in my romantic partnership? And have I healed from these past traumas, or am I bringing this toxicity into my new relationships? Am I ruining my kids? Am I like, it's just this constant juggle of things, and trying to make life work and to hold everything up. And yeah, these last couple weeks, I have just felt like I am letting everyone down, that I'm dropping everything because I am I am spread so thin that I can't give fully to any one area. And I really used to pride myself in multitasking. Like, I got it down. And I really used to pride myself in thinking that, no, in not thinking, in pretending to be unaffected by what was going on in my life. I got this. I'm strong. I don't need help. I'll do it myself. And I, this is just, I don't pride myself in those things. Multitasking is fucking hard. And pretending that I've got it all together and that I don't have weaknesses and that nothing gets to me and that I am that nothing hurts me, that nothing will break me. Like, yeah, it has served me pretty well at times to have that mentality. But I think there is also something really powerful in being able to say, like, these last few weeks have sucked. I've had multiple breakdowns, multiple moments crying in my car, multiple times where those limiting beliefs start creeping back up again. And, it's, I guess, maybe what I wanted to share here today is that if you have those times in your life and you have those moments where doubts creep up, or you feel like you're going to break at any moment, or you feel like you're not good enough at home or in your job or in your love life or with your friendships, or you feel like those imposter thoughts creep in, you're not alone. And you're not alone, and don't give in to those thoughts because they're not true. And you just have to keep pushing forward, keep putting one foot in front of the other, taking little steps to continue to move forward. And eventually you will climb out of the trench again. I kind of feel like, in life, if you're moving forward, if the desire is to move forward and the desire is to become a better version of yourself and the desire is to progress, it looks like this, right? As you're like going up. It's not this. And so mostly I'm just here reminding myself that because it's been a month. But we got this. Thanks for letting me word vomit. Hope you all have a fantastic day, and I'll see you next time.